Welcome to Beat the Glitter, the podcast where we talk about tough topics with giggles and leave inspiration that sticks. I'm your host, Wham, and this episode is pure magic thanks to guest Ana Devine, an intuitive astrologer, energy worker, and angelic Reiki practitioner who uses they, she pronouns like me. She debunks the myth that joyful, uplifting people must have had easy lives. And those who truly hold space for others and lead with compassion are those who have walked through fire many times, and the healing work continues. In this conversation, Ana opens up about their identity journey, growing up in a restrictive religious environment, and discovering that healing doesn't make our pain smaller. We grow bigger to hold it. We'll explore the beauty of becoming more yourself, the power of choosing self-care when you're at your lowest, and why the light bringers among us often carry the deepest stories. If you've ever thought that you should be quote unquote healed already, this episode is for you. Ready for this loaded podcast? Let's get some glitter.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, Ana Devine. It is such a pleasure to have you here. It's a magical, witchy day. It's so perfect for our conversation and for your energy and for all of the glitter that you have to bring out to the universe.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I'm so happy to be here.
So I know you because I actually helped you with some writing on we'll call it a past life website, maybe.
A prototype website. It was one of those, I was still gestating a lot. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Gestational website. Mm-hmm.
I completely understand that.
Yeah.
And now you're in this fabulous new space where you feel much more yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I mentioned that, it just reminds me for you to introduce yourself, how you would like to be known,
Mm-hmm.
and then talk about your identity journey, because I think it is such a beautiful story, and beautiful doesn't always mean it's perfect and delightful and happy. We both know that we've had quite the human experiences. I would love for you to share a little bit about what you're doing now, and then we'll feather that right into your identity journey.
I love that. Okay. So thank you for that. So my name is Ana Devine, and my pronouns are they, she, and I am, amongst many other things, a practicing intuitive astrologer and energy worker who does angelic Reiki and intuitive energy clearings for people. The journey, as you said, is quite beautiful. Like you said, the beauty isn't always straightforward. There's a lot of poignancy and pain. And I think that that's something that I'm so grateful to be able to put forth here. And to also, every time we engage together, I feel it. Like, you are very glittery, bubbly, like the energy comes up in the room when Laura is there. If it's a Zoom room, if it's a physical room, Laura comes in, everything goes up. The brightness is up. The sun is out, right? Like, and I have some of those energies myself, kind of that bring things up with buoyancy when I'm in a good place. And I think sometimes people will read that as, oh, these people are so happy, and they're so like upbeat. They must have had like a perfect life, or they must not be deep people. And it's like, oh,
they've got their stuff together. They've got it all together. And it's just like, oh,
that is an interesting cultural narrative, and one I also believed for a while. And what I found is that the people who are the ability to uplift others, who have the ability to ground themselves and be authentic, have self-respect, have respect for others, and come from a place of love, compassion, and hope, these people have walked through the fire many times. And they've been blessed in many ways. They've gotten a lot of grace from other people, from circumstances, from fortune. And that's where this comes from. It doesn't come from easy street. But if anybody happens to know where Easy Street is, please feel free to email me. I will take the coordinates.
We talked a little bit about that when you gave my astrology reading. And I even asked you, like, okay, so is there any view of an easy life in the future? And you had a very polite way of answering that question.
Yeah.
And yes, you
Mm.
have had quite a colorful life journey so far, and it has brought you to this wonderful place. For me, I always see that you have this strong calling to help others.
Mhm.
It's like you have come from your struggles with this determination to make sure that nobody else goes through what you have gone through, or at least you can help others avoid um, anywhere near the severity of pain. And
Mhm.
you just truly want the world to be a better place for as many humans as you can possibly touch. Do I have that?
I would say that like my experience and growing up in a really restrictive religious environment and an abusive family unit and a psychopathic society in a lot of ways, there were being a kid is really, really hard for everybody. And for me, it was extremely hard as well. And one of the blessings of adulthood and of the many healing journeys that I've been on with psychotherapy, with medications, with mindset, with all of the books, with all of the different modalities and paradigm shifting and everything, is that the pain and the of our experiences and the violence of our memories doesn't get smaller, but we get bigger. We
I
can
love
grow
that.
to hold it, to contain it, to this experience that, these experiences that oftentimes feel like raw nerves. We can eventually create that myelin sheath. We can put the skin around it. We can put the soft blanket around it and have that containment and that safety where we're not negating it. We're not making it the forever center point of our lives, although for a large part for as long as it needs to be the center point, let it be. Like
Yeah.
the amount of time we spend thinking that I should be healed already, it's kind of like pulling the e-brake and then trying to drive faster.
You have so much glitter. Everything you say is like so capturable into beautiful golden nuggets that, like, she said that thing about the pain. It doesn't get smaller, we get bigger. So you don't have to share everything. You have had many different ways of coming out, kind of like I did.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, where I am right now, I'm internally and publicly honoring my identities as an eternal spiritual being, experiencing an embodied life as non binary, neurodivergent, bisexual, divination practicing human being. And the reason that it matters that I identify myself in these ways and that I hold on to these identities is because of being born and raised in a very prescriptive environment. From family, neighborhood, community, state, I was assigned a lot of roles and titles tacitly and explicitly. So when there's that, and this is something that I feel very strongly about, when people want to move from we've got all these really, really defined roles for everybody around uh, gender, sexual orientation, race, ethnicity, color, ability, all these things. People want to move. Some people feel like, okay, the next step is just, oh, those things don't matter. And it's like, sweetheart, they've never mattered. Like, quote unquote, like what level are we talking about here? If we're looking at a cosmic lens, does it matter? No. If we're looking at a biological lens, does it matter? Yeah, it actually does in the case of some care needs and differences. And those are going to be specific to the individual versus specific to their identity. However, we're existing at the moment within systems on systems on systems on systems that rely on and utilize these identities. And someone deciding that it doesn't matter that they're bisexual instead of heterosexual is doing nothing to protect them. It's doing nothing to create space for themselves. It's doing nothing to honor them. So for me, it's about honoring myself with my identities and honoring the identities of all those around me, whether they are clinging to their assigned identities, whether they've defined their own, whether they're like, I can't even conceptualize why I would need a specific identity. That's what I want to do. I want to honor, I want to recognize, and let's pay attention to the water that we're swimming in, because then we can do something with it. There are currents. Let's swim, let's move, let's go places.
Yes. I love what you said there, because what I was also hearing as your understanding as to why we need to honor our beautiful, diverse identities is
Yeah.
because they are valid, they are real, they are not to be dismissed. And by ignoring them, dismissing them, or the attempting to erase them is literally ignorant. Uneducated, it's ignorant in my opinion, and it's also denying that it's okay for people to be different. It's
Yes.
okay for the world to be filled with diverse people.
And when we look at the exploitative nature of the majority of the systems that we operate within, it's when we apply those state organized identities that we start to see the patterns of exploitation and extraction and exhaustion emerge. And that's where the idea of intersectionality came from. There were two, she was at an organization that they were recruiting for a new hire, and they wanted to find somebody more diverse than prior. They weren't just looking for a white man this time with particular qualifications. And then what they ended up doing was they created there was one search committee that was focused on, and this is for like an executive role. There's one search committee that was focused on looking for Black people, and there was one search committee that was focused on looking for women. And what she identified within this is that because they had not brought them together, they would not find a Black woman in this process if they did not look at the intersection of multiple identities being covered over. And so the deep value of recognizing and honoring the experiences of historically and currently marginalized and exploited groups, such as queer women of color and queer trans
Yeah.
women of color
Yeah.
and just trans people of color. We're going to miss things, and we're going to social veneer, kind of smooth over like, oh, I'm sure everything's okay. I'm sure everything's fine over there. I think those people are making a big deal about nothing. So that comes back again to honoring. And I can honor other people in their experiences if I'm honoring myself. If I'm negating myself, if I'm negating my needs, if I'm shutting myself down, how am I going to extend that grace to other people?
You've had so many different roles. So when you say you've experienced this and you've done it yourself, you and I have that in common where we've been in the corporate world and we have also decided to take independent routes. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about even that identity journey of going from like the high powered corporate world to your space that you're in now.
Yeah, definitely. Even just getting to the corporate world was such a weird journey, and I was constantly having it reflected back to me by those who knew my background in corporate spaces, that they were so surprised that I was able to do what I could do, and that they were just blown away by what I was bringing to the table and how I was able to affect change and help people. And what many of them failed to realize until I brought it to their attention, and some people figured it out themselves, is it's because I came from a different background, because I had a different path in that I saw the world differently than they did. Um, I I mean, I spent the first 20 years of my life, 25 years of my life in fully bought in, fully devoted to fundamentalist evangelical Christianity. Like that's how I was raised. That was my family. I was homeschooled. So I was like not, I didn't even get to see what the alternatives were in those typical environments that kids of the 80s and 90s were getting. I had a very specific um, education that was really, really focused on um, fundamentalist orthodoxy and also on um, just living in right relationship with institutions that my family had chosen and believed were saving us from, could save us from eternal damnation and wasting our lives on earth. So high pressure mode. But that also,
We can laugh now, right? I
yeah,
guess, I don't know. At the time, I know that was just huge, huge pressure.
I'm
And
supposed
I
to
will
like,
talk about how my mom was like constantly concerned about who was watching us. And it was like we were living on
mhm,
40 acres in the middle of nowhere. And it was just like, oh, God, like God's watching everything that we
mhm,
do and listening to everything
yeah,
we do. And all that does is just make people hide things,
yeah. It makes them hide. It
instead of,
makes them sick.
oh yeah, very, very
Yeah,
sick. Yeah.
yeah.
And
And
drunk.
valid.
Every time I watch Golden Girls now, it feels like I'm supposed to have fuzzy navels and popcorn. That's how we watched it
Yeah,
with our mom. Like that's
amazing.
I'm pretty sure kids who are wearing strawberry shortcake nightgowns weren't supposed to be drinking fuzzy navels. But like
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
life goes on. Okay.
It
So
does go on. And thank God for cellular regeneration. Like I just I'm so grateful. Like I think about how like all the cells in a person's body regenerate every 7 years, and I just
yes.
like the amount of space that I have since the time of the occurrences of my youth that were, truly toxic and degrading to all of my beings, and just recognizing that while that was true, and also I am now here, and
Yes.
I can go back and give love, care, and protection to those versions of me. So shout out to internal family systems therapy and to
Yeah.
my on again off again therapist Claudia Viadro. She is the best. So anyway, there I was,
Yeah.
super devoted, extremely annoying kid who was truly spiritually connected to, the deity that we were worshiping in the church that I grew up in, and also working valiantly to make the Bible and the theology surrounding it make sense with the experience of God and love and Jesus and the Holy Spirit and all the things that I was working with. And um, the the whole thing fell apart for me. My faith, my everything, this whole like extremely entrenched worldview that I had been so invested in. Like I went to Christian colleges. I was everything about me. I was going to be a missionary for a long time. Like these were very, very crucial, critical aspects of my life. And then what happened was
Time for sponsor love. Our glitter bomb sponsor of Be the Glitter is Midwest Mujeres. Host of Yo Quiero Dinero, this year's theme is Our Stories Have Value, which celebrates the voices of Latina and Black women entrepreneurs who are redefining wealth, confidence, and community. Each storyteller shares a personal journey of growth and empowerment, turning lived experiences into lessons of resilience and hope. Find the tickets at www.midwestmujeres.com for Saturday, November 8th at the My Arts Theater in Madison, Wisconsin. We'll also have links in the show notes. Mil gracias, Midwest Mujeres. And now we continue with Ana Devine's story.
as I made some major changes with how I interacted with my family of origin, especially my very abusive parent that I'm now blissfully estranged from. and I, finished college and I married this person who I'm not married to anymore. I got a new husband now and he's great. That it was in the context of all of a sudden having a place where I felt safe enough to accept and receive love from another person, to believe the good things about myself that I hadn't let myself before, to have that self-regard, and that it was just a matter of time. Once I had that safety within myself, that I was going to, that my heart for helping people was going to realize, like, Anna, you're hurting people. Like, do you see this? Do you see that your friend came out of the closet? I think I was about 26. He came out of the closet on Facebook. It was back in the day. I felt this. I was so surprised that in my heart, I felt this overwhelming joy and relief for him, because I knew, oh my God, this is who he is. I knew him. I loved him. I had led worship with him. Like, we had done all sorts of things. And then all of a sudden I was faced with this contradiction, that everything that I knew in the strain of Christianity that I was a part of said that this wasn't real. And yet everything in my bones knew that this was his truth, and that this was real for him, and that he was a loving, good, and kind person. Not that you need to be those things to deserve validation and respect, but that mattered to me back then. And then the house of cards started to tumble. And I had enough internal safety that I couldn't force myself to put the cards back together again. And so went through, when they say the dark night of the soul, I feel like that's got to be a mistranslation somewhere. Also, it can be really hard when that's not what a person is used to. So
public, I think part of what you were facing is that your struggle was the truth you were feeling inside, and the teachings from the outside that those feelings were probably wrong and not to trust those feelings. Then the public pressure to be the person that you had been preaching yourself to be, and the beliefs that you had been so stuck to for so long. And so to break that, breaking from any abuse, whether it's religious abuse or just some belief system abuse or any kind of abuse, there's still this really strange feeling that the victims feel. There's still a weird mourning of it.
Oh, absolutely.
I think a lot of people here can relate to that.
Absolutely.
You're not alone.
There is loss. There is true loss. And the thing that I come back to each time is that humans can't create something that's all bad. It's impossible. We can't create a family, a system, a relationship, a book, a pop-up ad that's all bad. That's not how the universe works. There is something beautiful and valuable and gorgeous in everything that a person connects to.
Right.
Now, does that mean that the thing that we connect to is always the right thing for us forever? Decidedly no. However, when we're at those transition points, that releasing is very, very painful, especially when some of the releasing that we've had to do in our lives, some of the hardest releasing that we have to do in our lives is when as small children, we experience things that shouldn't happen to kids, but that do happen to kids all the time. And that we have to make sense of it by ourselves, typically, because we're in a environment and a structure that does not understand or honor consent. It's a power over system. It is about supporting the top of the pyramid in the family and in the community and in the state. And so what kids do is we figure out that it must be our fault and let's do something different. And then we get to have some sense of agency. At least if it's our fault, then the world makes sense, And so
we're
that
learning.
loss,
When you're that
grief,
young, we have it in our biological system to believe that these people are supposed to be the ones who are showing us how the world works.
Yeah.
That is supposed to be where love and safety comes from. That's supposed to be modeling love and safety. And
Yeah.
so we have this biological need to trust that, yet
Yes.
there is already at that young age that wisdom that it's not quite right.
Which is why it makes us sick as
So
kids, sick behaviorally, sick in our bodies. So many adults who were abused as kids also have it's a journey for them to come to understand that the things that they thought made them bad as kids were actually that energy trying to come out and needing to come out in a different way, that the trauma that they had internalized in their body, which has had nowhere else to go, and they weren't being supported in transmuting it out, that's why they were not able to control themselves the way the adults in their environment thought that they should. That's why these behaviors came from. And like finding a way to hold ourselves in love and acceptance, like honoring the little kids of us that helped us survive, that made things better, and then recognizing that when we do that honoring work, when we hold space for them and we hold space for ourselves today, and we change our behavior so that, we're not constantly repressing ourselves, pushing ourselves down, or constantly reacting to our environment in ways that create outcomes that we are not happy with. Like it's so transformational. So much energy is released to us to be loving and creative and expressive, and to learn how to relax, to learn how to experience ease, and to learn how to value that. And that, however, that fuel can be like pouring rocket fuel all over everything if we do it.
sometimes we have to laugh at the most painful things.
And those of us who've lived through it, a lot of, it depends on where you are in the journey, and I honor all those places. And we can, knowing that there would be a time when I could authentically laugh at my experiences while also feeling the emotions and knowing my memories, being in the moment. I didn't think this was possible in 2001. I didn't think that this could happen. And honestly, most of the therapy community didn't know it either. We were part of a vanguard of my abused homies and me who had to break the seal on the secrets when we were kids or adolescents or young adults. We're trailblazers, I just appreciate every person who at any point in their life has chosen to move forward in healing, even if they didn't have an example of what that could look like, because that's how we've created the examples that now these other generations will have access to. It's part of the collective consciousness and collective unconsciousness. People can just reach out and grab this information now and connect to these stories and travel so much easier. It's not lifting their pain. It's just not creating as much of it along the way. There's not as much waste, I would say. Coming back to like labels and identity, again, someone looks at me, they don't know what I've lived through. Most people who look at me can't tell that I'm half Cuban. They can't tell that I have a parent who's a refugee. They can't tell that I'm bisexual. Like there's so many things about me that if I wanted to be undercover, I could. Or if I wanted to be myself, but not like come forward and state my identities, I could just let them assume what they wanted to assume. And if it comes up, it comes up. And that's how I handled a lot of corporate stuff. I think the biggest masking that I did of my identity in the corporate world was I was still masked to myself. And that was like my neurodivergence. I knew I had PTSD, like complex PTSD from like early childhood onward. It's part of how my brain developed. And also now diagnosed with ADHD and things that to me look a lot like autism, but part of that demand avoidance is I'm not going in for another diagnostic. So trying to act the way and perform and produce the way that a mainstream corporate world wanted me to behave and perform, and the individuals within it, that was probably the biggest switch that I had to make when I was coming out again as myself right around the pandemic. Yeah, probably. I had the bandwidth before to like go out, perform as best as I could, come back, recover, do a bunch of work at home, stay up really late, do all this stuff, then go back to work and everything. I could do that. But then I had a
Yeah.
kid, and my brain had started taking over hormone production again. Because, by the way, folks, if you or someone you love has ever been pregnant, the placenta, which is a fetal-maternal organ, it is a group project. All of our lives started as a group project. It has to be built by the gestational parent and the fetus. Like, they worked, the embryo, they work together to create and maintain this organ. That organ comes in as like the emergency manager, taking over all hormone production because it needs to manage for this entity and for the big person who is carrying the entity. And so
Hmm.
at the time of birth, however that baby or those babies get out, the placenta comes out as well, and you have at least a 2-week period where there's no boss of hormones. There's no hormone boss. Yeah. So
That's fascinating. And we can take that for granted until we've experienced it. And then
mhm.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So when my hypothalamus and all the other things, the pituitary gland, thyroid, all kicked back in again 2 weeks after my child was born, I checked the news for the first time and then saw that we were having a pandemic.
Yeah.
And so, when as a new,
So the things that we've lived through, and there's going to be more.
yes,
The things we're
yes,
living through right now, when
hmm
we resilient children.
hmm
I think sometimes I'm just like, yeah, okay, I gotta put my Doc Martens on and put on some tunes and just, yeah, we're gonna ride through that. We're gonna stomp through this. Uh,
yeah, yeah. The experience of being in a pandemic and with all of my many, many privileges, still as a newborn parent with just my spouse in the house with me and our child for a long period of time, I was operating on negative margins on a good day. So when I started going back to work again, and we were able to hire a wonderful human being who was our nanny, who was part of our pod, would come to our home every on work days. I got to see in real time exactly what it cost me to go along with things that were not in alignment with my soul. I got to see very viscerally what it was costing me to perform the way I was performing. And I got to figure out new
yeah.
things. Of course, the whole thing of like, oh, pull back. Like, instead of doing 110%, do like 60%, and it's still going to look like more than the other people. And well, sure, you figure out all these things, you figure out all these tricks and hacks, and yet as the years went on, and things opened up more, and still realizing that this was out of alignment that I was out of alignment with my soul, that I was out of alignment with my inner knowing, my inner self. And it was coming out in a lot of health problems, a huge pivot point in my life. And like my most recent coming out as a person who is proudly neurodivergent and neurodivergent affirming, as someone who now also is a practicing astrologer and an intuitive energy worker. So the shifts of lose and to back to what you were saying about the grief and the loss, like,
Yeah.
oh God, respectability is a hell of a drug. Oh my God, the way that it felt when I could tell people that I was a business technology consultant and,
Yes.
making uh this like steady, large paycheck, um,
Hmm.
doing things that I'm not super proud of, but that other people will be like, no, this totally makes sense. You should do that. Um,
Yeah.
and I am proud of a lot of the things that I did. And there are fantastic people at every company I worked for and every client that I worked with. It's just the overall overarching systems. Like, do I want to be supporting this extractive model, or do I want to be somewhere else? And
Yeah.
everybody has their own path and their own journey. And as an astrologer, like, I can recognize and honor and really see in someone's birth chart, like, where they're going to be wanting to put their energies and like what's going to matter to them. And the thing is, it's not about shifting like, oh, this really matters to you, but you should care about this thing over here. It's like, no, let's find a way to honor the thing that you care about. And if there's areas of your life that are being subsumed or overtaxed or ignored, there are ways in these gorgeous patterns of the birth chart, of the planets and the signs and the aspects and all the things and the luminaries that we can find your own unique path options that are going to feel nourishing and nurturing and exciting to each person. And so for me, realizing that while there are people, glorious people who I love and respect, who can work the same job that I had and be fulfilled and be okay, that's not my journey and that's not my
Yeah.
story.
I think sometimes in the corporate world, we can feel like we're vampires. We're always trying to get more
Mm-hmm.
when we're just a cog in the wheel of the system.
Mm-hmm.
There's just never enough, right? You're just always expendable. But when
Yeah.
we get to truly surround ourselves with really good people and
Mm-hmm.
honor them, honor the energy of the people that are around us, as well as our
Mm-hmm.
own energy, what that looks like to have a more synergistic relationship with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And like a conscious consent-based energy exchange,
Yes.
recognizing like that whether or not we want to use that language, like that's what's happening. And we can think about the people who in our lives who and we've all been on either side of the conversation. So we picture two people, one person calls the other, they're having a really, really hard time or just a shitty day, and they're talking to this person that they called because they knew they would feel better afterwards. And so one person is like in this dynamic, and this isn't always what happens, but in this dynamic
Mhm.
that we're describing, where it's like unconscious and not necessarily consent based, the person who is the helper on the call feeling like I need to do this for this other person because they can't do it for themselves, and someday this person will take care of me similarly, which may or may not be true. um, so we've got this one person who's getting uplifted because they're offloading their their negative,
Garbage.
yeah, just their discordant energy. And then this other person is like just harmonizing with them. They're validating them, they're building back into them. So we've got this energy shifting. So one person is coming up and the other person is going down. So when they hang up, the person who felt bad now feels better. The person who was just living their life now feels worse. And there's a time and a place for that kind of energy exchange. Like there are going to be times when we are going to willingly deplete ourselves for someone else. And that is so valid. However, when we're doing it consciously, we can know what we're getting into. And that's that consent-based portion, recognizing that our energies do affect each other. Our vibe, our words, how we're feeling, how we come across to each other, body language, all these things are impacting each other. And just letting that be true is so freeing, especially for the very empathetic, very sensitive, often survivors of childhood abuse people in the world who had to keep all of their empathy sensors open to survive their childhood. And now they're in adulthood and shouldn't affect you, sticks and stones, that whole thing. The value of just recognizing that, wow, my energy affects other people and their energy affects me, so validating. And then getting to a
Mhm.
place of consent and mutual respect where I'm going to respect my limitations and respect the other person as a creator in their own right. That somebody who loves jumping into the rescuer role, that recognizing that I can choose to support another person. I can choose to bring my energy to another person, and I can also choose to not do that. And so that makes those chosen conversations and interactions and group projects that we do choose so much more powerful and more valuable, because then it comes back to that thing you were saying about that grasping feeling that we can get sometimes in the corporate framework of like, I need you to do your thing so that I can do my thing so that we can be okay. That's just that. And working on projects that just they're not right, they're not working, they're not going the way they need to, or they could go the way they need to, but with the way that people are treating each other, everybody's nervous system's through the roof, and they're
Yeah.
performing at a much lower level than they would if they felt safe and calm and nourished and in control of their energy and their time and their well-being. Love a conscious consent-based energy exchange.
So when we talk about embracing and honoring our identities, as you have so beautifully illustrated in this conversation, there's many different identities that we're talking about here. What kind of advice do you have for allies?
I feel and think that demoralizing the idea of privilege is extremely helpful. For example, I experience a lot of privilege in my life. I also experience a lot of systemic oppression. If I deny the fact that I am treated differently and more positively because I appear white, because I appear cis and able-bodied, and what people think of when they think of American, like if I ignore and deny those things because I also experience sexism, because I experience homophobia and bias against disability, I can't really connect with people who are experiencing. It's more challenging for me to respect other people's experience. And so for me to also say, like, privilege is right now, like, I'm not saying, like, let's not dismantle these systems, let's not divest from these systems and move elsewhere. It's just recognizing it, like taking away the negative or positive charge from it. Oh, well, I'm not privileged, I have these other things that had happened to me. It's like, no, both things are true. Both things are true. And so giving ourselves space to work through that is really important as white women, as white cis appearing women, letting ourselves recognize that we actually hold a ton of power, because that's the problem. Okay, so when we believe that we're powerless is often when we can do the most harm, because we don't see ourselves as powerful. So we don't recognize when we're lashing out at somebody, or when we're ignoring somebody or pushing somebody down a stupid ladder that we're on, because we don't identify ourselves as a powerful person, and some of that power comes from privilege. We are a loose cannon. And so recognizing and honoring our power, soft power, hard power, ascribed, internal, all the things, is super vital for us being safe stewards of that power. So I would say, as allies, that is a critical thing to do, is look at where you have power and recognize it, honor it, and then be mindful as you go into encounters with people who are different from you, or as you go into encounters with people who are the same as you, and you're talking about the people who are different than you. Because let me tell you, I'm privy to a lot of those conversations because they don't think that there's somebody who's not white or not straight in the room. They don't think that there's somebody who's not able-bodied in the room.
Yeah.
But I'm there. I'm always there. So that's one of them. And then the other is just like if you feel like somebody is asking for too much kindness, too much understanding, too much acceptance, too many accommodations, check your shadow. Like, go ahead and look at, like, what part of yourself are you pushing down? What do you feel like you're losing because they're asking for something? What is this showing you? Because they're actually giving you a gift. We are given so many gifts by people who choose to speak out, choose to use their voices to protect themselves and to bring light to their experiences.
Yep. Yes. Yes. And what came up for me is check your shame,
Mm.
you know, your own self-shame as well as your shaming of other people. Shame is never helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There aren't people who are the wrong way or the not enough way. We all need each other. We all need support. Literally, nobody is doing this by themselves. Everybody needs accommodations. Everybody needs people to care for them in their lives. And everybody has people who are caring for them in their lives. Even if it's not the kind that you want right now, there are those who are doing things that are supporting you to where you are. And that's a beautiful thing when we can honor it and feel gratitude for it. I am grateful for every day that I can add more love and awareness and understanding to myself, because then I can be different and with other people.
I think we honestly can just keep loving harder. Hope and love can outshine the hate and fear and violence.
Yeah. It's really hard to get a front row seat to hatred and violence and mistreatment, especially when the layers of belief are getting pulled off for us and the experience, especially, I mean, and that's like an interesting thing too, as like queer privileged people like me and you, that there's certain things that we were able to lean on, like certain cultural mythologies that we were able to rely on and operate within without experiencing much negative impact from it that we had perceptions of, in our upbringing and all these things. And then when we come out, we realize like, oh, wait a minute. Hello, these systems. And then there's people who are like, we've been saying this the whole time. You remember the
Yes.
50s, like, and the 60s and the 70s, and the fact that the Civil Rights Act was passed in 65 and literally no police officers changed roles, not a single thing, not a judicial system, nothing changed. They were just like the same people who were doing these things over here, who were
Yeah.
reinforcing these social norms, are now being asked to follow these things and be responsible for making change. The United States
Yeah.
has been a horror movie for millions of people in this country since before its founding. And so looking to them from a place of humility and honoring and respect to say how not to look at the things they've already published and written, because they've the podcast, videos, books, essays are there for us to take that time to say, okay, how do you find joy? How do you create space for yourself? How have you experienced this change and kept the faith for yourself, for your families, for your community, for your loved ones, when there were policies and practices that were actively trying to tear you down
Yeah.
for generations? And that's when I come to Audre Lorde, who I have
You have a
a
quote?
from here. Yeah, it's
Yay.
from her book, Sister Outsider, Essays and Speeches. This is like, it's a painful truth, and there's grief and loss in this as well, because we got so good at the master's tools. I'm so good at wielding the master's tools. I'm like a black belt of using the master's tools. I have taught people how to like work within these systems.
Mhm.
She said that those of us who stand outside the circle of this society's definition of acceptable women, those of us who have been forged in the crucibles of difference, those of us who are poor, who are lesbians, who are Black, who are older, know that survival is not an academic skill. It is learning how to take our differences and make them strengths. For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us temporarily to beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. And this fact is only threatening to those women who still define the master's house as their only source of support.
That last part. Wow.
Mhm.
So, if I may, we looked at I'm going to be a little tiny bit selfish here and talk about my chart. It was really apparent how, if anyone could call me too much, my birth chart
Mhm.
basically confirms that, right? Like,
Yeah. She's not too much. She just came here to be more than most people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's not judging anybody who's not as big. It's just different sizes. Yeah.
And then I asked, okay, is it going to get any easier? Because we
Mhm.
talked about just how difficult and painful the past had been. It's
Mhm.
still intense in a different way. You said that it's going to get a little lighter, but my life is never going to be easy
I said, yeah.
because I always want change and I will never stand for status quo, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. That you're here to change the world, and that I've thought about your reading so many times since then, and the clear indicators that your sense of self, your sense of well-being, your personal life force is connected to large scale social evolution and change for the better. And so having that kind of connection to humanity, to the planet, to the people that you love and who love you creates a very powerful position and it's a very intense position. And so one thing that I said as well is looking to equalize that. If you're going to constantly be experiencing power from the outside, amping up that power inside, being willing to be as big as you are, then all of a sudden, even though you're experiencing 10,000 PSI on the outside, if you've got 10,000 PSI coming from the inside, it's going to feel like balance. It's going to feel like flow. You're going to have that moving equilibrium that you're looking for. And you will continue to grow in your ability to hold space and your ability to work with power and to let go of or transform beliefs and experiences and limiting patterns that you have made it feel not safe to be as powerful and as strong and in everyone's face as you are. Like, I'm so glad you have a podcast. I'm glad you have your newsletter. I'm glad you work with clients. I'm so grateful that you're doing this because your energy came here to be expressed on earth throughout your whole lifetime. And you bless the world when you live in your truth. It can't be any other way. So
It
I
can't be any
appreciate
other
you.
way.
Yeah.
Oh, Anna, I appreciate you so much.
Thank
And
you.
this truth is sometimes very difficult to take. I'll be honest, everyone listening. Like, it's I'm
Mhm.
a lot, and this is a lot, and I'm going to do my best. I think everybody else deserves it.
And
So
and I want to say that because of the power of your impact and the power of your energy, when you do things that are kind for yourself, when you choose to take breaks, when you choose to have 4,000 liquids in aesthetically pleasing glasses, when you make choices that nourish and affirm yourself, yes. When you say no to things that you'd already said yes to because you realize like actually this isn't aligned anymore, that is blessing outward as well. Your example is bright. And so the things that you do to bring ease and relief and solace to your own life and to your own relationships are also doing the big work too. Podcasts are big work. Giant leadership is big work. Book publishing is big work. And so is the exquisite care that you are showing yourself and you're developing each day.
I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
You're so beautiful with words. Do you know that? Like,
Thank you.
your
I'm
words are gems.
They're very important to me, which is why I use all of them.
You and I also have that in common.
Yeah. You have the
Watch out,
ability.
world.
Yeah, you can crystallize things. And I'm like, what if we had every crystal and then surrounded that with like silly string? Let's go.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
We are going to have some retreats of some kinds where
Mhm.
we are going to just like the two of us will be together and the world will feel it. Like it'll be like, whoa,
Mhm.
whoa, there's some major energy going on right now. And it's like, yeah, it's because Laura and Anna are like doing stuff together.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. And we'll be experiencing the blessing of the people who are listening to this, doing the things in their lives that are sometimes the hard things. There will be experiencing the blessing of other people resting, of other people living in their truth. Like we are all, it's a virtuous cycle. It lifts us all.
Healing those past selves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we only glossed on that, and that could be a totally different podcast. That's something I love to do to help people is to literally go back to that 5-year-old self, that 11-year-old self, that 13-year-old self, and meet them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there's things that we learn from that version of ourselves. They have gifts to give us in our current space. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they probably need some messages from us at this point saying, you're safe now. You're not in
Mm-hmm.
danger anymore. You're
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm taking
Mm-hmm.
care of you.
Mm-hmm.
You made it. And you are love, and you are beautiful, and you are an amazing human on this earth, and you deserve more love and more safety. I'm giving you everything you need right now. You needed hot chocolate and a
Mhm.
hug, a
Mm.
meaningful hug, not a creepy hug. And you
Mhm.
needed a blankie. I've got the softest, most amazing blankie for you, and the hot chocolate with a little cinnamon that you like, and
Mhm.
the longest hug you need,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
the
Yes.
safety to be okay.
Mhm.
Um, so many
Yeah.
versions of ourself, I think, need that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the blessing of experiencing ourselves when that part of us that has been so neglected or so mistreated receives that love and care and acceptance. And then something that I've experienced as well with that in IFS therapy is then getting the message from that version of me, that part of me who knows something that I need today, that recognizes, like, okay, there's something about a current dynamic that I can shift. Having that wisdom and care flow both ways. Fortunately, I have so much trauma. I'll never run out.
Same. What's been coming up lately for me is there's a version of myself that I have ignored a lot. And it was in that pre-teen age. I was really awkward and I was really
Oh, wow.
confused. And there was also a very different power struggle with my mother. But I have this very brief, sharp memory. It's fuzzy in the beginning and the end of it. But there's
Mhm.
this brief, short memory of me catching my mom's hand and a shock of fear in her face. Like, just
Mm.
before she was gonna hit me, I caught her hand for the first time and looked at her in the eye, and
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
she got scared.
Mhm.
So eventually okay, that "ha ha ha" that everyone just heard, that's another laughter we were talking.
Yeah, some of that's trapped energy, and thank goodness. Thank goodness for nervous laughter. Thank goodness for all these physical responses to our experiences in our life that are actually flowing the energy out instead of turning it
Yes.
into knots in our back and stones in our kidneys. But yeah, the having a memory of experiencing your own power and
Yeah.
experiencing that interaction of your power with somebody who was, for their reasons, attempting to create a very specific channel and rate of exchange for your power because they didn't believe it was safe to be who they were. They thought they were saving you. They were wrong.
Mhm.
And and that wasn't their whole story, but yeah,
No.
that
Yeah.
dynamic of, like, it scares people that I'm powerful.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it's good to be a little scared. Halloween's coming. Like we get
Maybe sometimes it's good to be scary.
yes.
I just always imagine myself like I was told I was a Muppet. And then I think, how can a Muppet be scary? But there's so many other people who think I'm intimidating.
Mhm.
And I can only assume that's just because I'm so loud and so like
Mhm. Yeah, and
I
that
don't want to be intimidating.
comes back to identity again. And you don't want to be intimidating. Oh,
I
I know.
don't.
I know. It's hard to be seen, to have other people see you in a way that doesn't feel true to who you are. And the good news is that when they're doing that, they're not actually seeing you, they're projecting. They're feeling the dissonance between your authenticity and their level of authenticity, and that your level of freedom and the level of freedom that they and the systems they're within allow them. And so then it's like, oh, that's obviously a Laura problem. It's like, oh, no, 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 you just got to, like, go to the big city for a day and, like, look up at stuff and see the differences and the newness and the goodness,
So
and then
I'm the
you're
big
having your
city.
reactions. Yeah, yeah, you're Manhattan. I don't know, I've never been there, but it seems, yeah.
Manhattan's actually really cool. I like Manhattan. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're Manhattan. And so then they're like, oh, this means something about me. And it's like, Manhattan knows it's Manhattan. right? It's
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
you're going to have different responses to me. I'm going to do what I do.
Yeah.
And yeah, those of us with big personalities, big energies to be expressed outward, who just happen to have a big impact wherever we go, like we are embodying archetypes people for people's conscious, subconscious, and unconscious experiences. And so just again, accepting, being conscious of that power, recognizing that that may be what's happening, and so that I don't need to fix something in that other person or fix something in myself because they're responding to me in this way. I can honor how I am. I can look at myself and say, okay, is there something that I want to do differently in this space? And then just let them have their experience.
Oh, I love you so much. Thank you so much for sharing all of your gifts. I know you gave a shout out to your therapist, your off
Mm-hmm.
and on therapist. Anybody else you want to give gratitude to?
Yes, thank you so much for this time and space. So I want to give gratitude and shout out Emmeline Chappell. She is a personal stylist. She's based in Virginia. She does virtual stylings and a true light in the world, very glittery human being. She is incredibly inclusive and celebratory of diversity of all forms. And she partnered with me. Like I don't know, a lot of elder millennials and Gen X were very traumatized by the TLC shows of yore, where you just like bring somebody unfashionable on the show and then you yell at them and then you turn them into a carbon copy of the last person on the episode. So
Yes.
that version of styling has terrified a lot of us. When
Yes.
I was coming out of pregnancy, pandemic parenthood, a prolonged surgical recovery that completely changed my body and like what it needed. And stepping into my wanting to step into new identities, new stories for myself, and having no idea how to do that. She worked with me with such kindness and skill and brilliance. She had the ability to bring out a person's personal style and to literally find the clothes then that can align to that style and meet with a person's silhouette, their colors, their everything. She's so gifted, so powerfully good and kind. And she has like I went on her website last night to just make sure I was getting the URL right, and I saw her values, and her first value is inclusivity. Like she knows
Oh,
she knows gender's a game, right? And she's like
yeah.
the kindness and skill that she displays is so incredibly powerful, and it's been so powerful for me. So there's so many things about the way that she works that are so empowering and educating and just streamlining. Like it's more expensive to work with a stylist than to order clothes yourself if you don't care about how much you're going to like the clothes you get. I don't own any clothes that I don't like and that don't look good on me. Like the
Yeah.
power of that and the amount of time that I save working with her. So yeah, EmmelinePersonalStyling.com. Love her, appreciate her.
Is it safe to say that now you feel more you than you've ever felt before?
Yes, it's like magic. It's practical magic.
That's
Absolute
magic.
practical magic. Yeah. I did one more person. So Phoebe Lynn Robinson, I wrote this down. She's a stand-up comedian, author, entrepreneur, and publisher of her own imprint. Her book,
Ooh.
You Can't Touch My Hair, is inimitable in its comedy, brilliance, and social leadership. She's been an advocate for inclusion for a very long time and used her hard-earned platform during the pandemic to amplify the brilliance of queer and trans people of color. It's through her pandemic podcast called Black Frasier that I found Alok Vaidmanan and their world-shaking poetry and thought leadership on gender policing and on the divinity and sacredness of transness in the indigenous histories that settler colonialism attempts to destroy. And I actually found astrology through her as well, because Phoebe Lynn Robinson was having a book tour. She had Glennon Doyle of We Can Do Hard Things
Oh,
podcast
wow.
speak as like somebody interviewing her on one leg of the tour. Then she gifted Glennon an astrology reading as a thank you because she's so classy and brilliant and good at gift giving. I also just found out she's a Libra too. So
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
fellow
Yeah. And so
Libra.
since Phoebe vouched for it and Glennon Doyle, when Glennon Doyle had her astrology episode, I was able to suspend my decades of conditioning for long enough to have my mind completely blown, to become completely obsessed, to realize and have reflected back to me in every astrology reading I've had. The astrologers were like, so are you becoming an astrologer? And I would say, oh, no, not me. So anyway, I so much
I believe
thank
I
and
was one of
praise.
those people who asked you that too.
Yeah. You asked me that, Laura, and I was like, no. I'm definitely going to stay in the closet on this. So yes, so many thanks and praises to Phoebe Lynn Robinson. Her work
Love it.
is incredible, and she is a powerhouse, and I hope that she gets everything she deserves.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Well, I thank you. I thank you so much for being the human being and celestial being that you are. You're so magical and so beautiful, and everything that you bring has so much soul and heart and just so much magic to it. Thank you so, so much for being here and spending so much of your glitter with us.
You are so welcome. And I have an answer for the other question that you had, which is how can we help you?
Yes, how can we help you, and what do you need from us?
Great question. I'm so glad you asked. So I need to live in a world where more people are being kind to themselves. So please
Yeah.
be kind to yourself. And if you don't know how, I get it. I totally get it. One hack is to check this website called youfeellikeshit.com. It is a self-care game. It takes you through one question at a time. I have been recommending this to people for over a decade. It is the most powerful tool that I've ever found to help when I'm in the absolute worst place or close to it, and I don't know how to get out of it, and my executive function is shot. This is the most beautiful site. The website takes you through the questions of self-care. So I'm so happy to express this to everyone. If you are experiencing extreme challenge, I understand. I believe in you. You deserve care. And one way to give yourself that care, to help you to a place where you can be the support for yourself and for others that you want to be, is through self-care. And this tool is incredibly powerful for that. It's very simple. It's beautiful, and it's youfeellikeshit.com. Thank you for that question, Laura Paisley Beck. I appreciate it.
Anytime. I've lately been describing myself as, or introducing myself as Wham, like ma'am, but with the M turned upside down.
Mhm. The poignancy of that nickname has never escaped me.
Yeah, that's had an evolution story of its own.
Yeah.
The world is a better place because you're in it. And we'll also put links to your website on
Thank you.
the show notes
Yes,
and any other
anadevine.com.
Ana
Yeah.
Devine with one N,
Yes.
ANAEVINE.com.
Yes. Thank you so
Anything
much.
else we can give you, because you've given us so much.
Just give yourself a high five. Like it literally, all the things that people make fun of when we're kids, like, oh, you're like saying kind words to yourself in the mirror, giving yourself a hug, high-fiving yourself. That's so whatever, insert ableist term here. That actually really helps. Like the biology, the science, the everything, the psychology is there. Like high-fiving yourself, like it creates an endorphin boost. So yes, high-five yourself.
Should we do it?
Woo. I appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Laura Wham. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for your kindness.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.